England led the World Cup semi-final with 10 minutes to go. Their manager had pulled the team into a low block to protect the lead, and for 80 straight minutes, it worked. The stands were loud. The English bench was on its feet. The biggest trophy in the sport suddenly felt within reach for a nation that hadn't touched it in 60 years. Then, a 39-year-old man who spends most of every match walking picked up the ball, turned two defenders inside out, and started taking the game apart by himself. 9 minutes later, England were out of the World Cup. To understand how that moment happened, it helps to go back to the beginning, because this wasn't a one-off.
What do you think of him, Messi? Now?
As a football player, amazing. Player is magic, top.
Claro que es Messi, porque es el número uno, es lo más grande de todos.
It was the ending of a story that had been building for a month. Here's what was supposed to happen at this World Cup. Kylian Mbappe, 27, arguably the fastest player in world football. Jude Bellingham, 23, built like he was engineered for exactly this era of football. Erling Haaland, 25, a genuine physical outlier. Lamine Yamal, barely 19, already being called the best player on the planet. This was supposed to be the most athletic generation the sport has ever produced. Faster, stronger, and better conditioned than anyone who came before them. Raised on sports science and modern academies that treat recovery and speed training like an exact science. Argentina, meanwhile, walked into the tournament fielding the oldest average lineup of any team in the competition, built around a captain who was closer to 40 than to 30. On paper, this was the World Cup where football finally moved past Lionel Messi. Instead, it became the tournament where he made the case that it never will. It started in the very first match against Algeria. Messi picked the ball up in midfield, turned, and buried it in the top corner. Then he did it again, pouncing on a goalkeeper's mistake. Then a third time, curling one home from the edge of the box. A hat trick in his 6th World Cup. At 38 years old, making him the oldest player in the tournament's history to ever score one. Next came Austria, and the pattern that would define his tournament. Messi missed a penalty in the first half, the kind of miss that ends most players' nights. Minutes later, he pounced on a loose rebound and scored anyway, breaking Miroslav Klose's all-time World Cup goal record in the same breath he'd just failed.
It's almost like a radius, like no one can go near him, his peak, and if you do, I remember I tried to get near him and I had studs, I slipped.
Who's the best player in the world?
Lionel Messi.
Who's the best player of all time?
Lionel Messi.
Then, in the round of 16 against Egypt, things nearly fell apart completely. Messi missed another penalty. Argentina found themselves down 2 goals with the clock running out. What followed became one of the defining sequences of the tournament. An assist and a goal from Messi inside 4.5 minutes, dragging his team level and eventually to a 3-2 win. He failed in crucial moments and still somehow kept his team alive. By the quarterfinal against Switzerland, something had to give, and it finally did. Messi's streak of scoring in 9 straight World Cup matches came to an end. But even on the one night he didn't find the net, he still made history, curling in a corner for his 10th career World Cup assist, passing a record that had stood since the 1950s. Argentina escaped in extra time, 3-1. But that same day, across the country, the new generation's most obvious physical specimen was breaking down in real time. Erling Haaland had terrorized this World Cup for 5 matches straight. Then, the heat in Miami hit triple digits. Midway through extra time against England, Norway's own coach pulled him off the field. He was finished, a dead leg, exhausted from carrying his team. Norway lost 2-1.
For me, Messi is the one. Messi.
As a football player, amazing. Player is magic, top.
But the great thing about the boy is that his feet are on the ground. He's such a humble man. You recognise that he's a true down-to-earth young boy. And you're pleased for him because of that. He's not changed, and I think that's a wonderful asset to have.
4 days later, Messi walked out to face that exact same England team. Nobody subbed him off. He got better as the match went on. Early in the game, Messi and Jude Bellingham got tangled up after a foul, trading words in a heated exchange that cameras caught in full. It ended with Messi giving Bellingham a long, flat stare and a dismissive shrug before walking away. Bellingham said afterward it was just an argument over a foul call, nothing personal, but the clip went viral within minutes. Because of what Messi did for the rest of the match, England took a 1-0 lead in the second half, dropped into a defensive shell. For most of the night, the plan worked. They managed just 5 shots the entire match and spent long stretches barely touching the ball at all. Then, Messi decided it wouldn't anymore. He completed 9 successful dribbles against England, the most by any player in a single match at the entire 2026 World Cup, repeatedly slicing through a back line that had no answer for a 39-year-old walking the ball straight at them. In the 85th minute, he drew 3 defenders toward him and laid the ball off to Enzo Fernandez, who curled it in to equalize. Then, in stoppage time, using his weaker right foot, Messi beat a defender down the flank and delivered a pinpoint cross for the winner. 2 assists, both decisive, both arriving after England thought they had already survived the worst of him. He also covered 8.35 kilometers that night, more ground than he'd covered in any other match of the tournament. The stat line from that single tournament is difficult to fully process. 10 assists across World Cup knockout matches, 6 more than Pelé, 33 career goal contributions, a full 8 clear of Kylian Mbappe, 99 scoring chances created across his World Cup career. None of that happened because Messi got faster. He didn't. It happened because the game he's always played was never really built on speed in the first place. While Haaland and Mbappe and Bellingham were bred to win foot races,
No me comparo con él porque no me comparo con nadie, mucho menos con Messi. Entonces, pues, lo dejo a vosotros porque entonces yo creo que esa comparación no tiene sentido, con Messi menos aún. Intento disfrutar, ser yo mismo y hacer mi camino. Entonces, obviamente la admiro como el mejor jugador de la historia, pero no me comparo con él.
Messi spent this entire tournament walking for most of every match, saving every ounce of energy for the 4 or 5 moments that actually decided the outcome. He wasn't losing the physical battle against a younger generation. He simply wasn't entering that battle at all. There's one more piece of this story worth knowing. 20 years ago, in a Barcelona locker room, a 20-year-old Lionel Messi posed for a charity calendar, gently holding a 4-month-old baby in his arms. That baby's name was Lamine Yamal. On Sunday, that baby will walk out against Messi in the World Cup final. 19 years old and one of the best players alive. One generation of this sport, quite literally, began in Messi's hands. Football thought the next generation would replace Lionel Messi. Instead, they spent an entire World Cup chasing a man who mastered this sport before most of them had learned to walk. The future finally arrived. It just wasn't enough.